Hello, everyone, and welcome to the SEPjr application webinar. We're going to get started in 1 second right here. Just going to switch over the screen that I'm sharing. And also, if you have any questions throughout the session, just a little information on the right-hand side of the presentation, you'll see to chat, you have to be logged into a Google account or Gmail account in order to add comments to the presentation. So just please make sure that you're logged in if you have any questions, and I'll try to address questions as we go through the program or through the presentation. So chat, you have to be logged into Okay, so I'm going to get started here. And so welcome again. This is the presentation for the Software Engineering Program Junior or SEPjr Cohort 3 application. Today we will be, excuse me, the agenda. So first we're going to start off with a little bit about what is SEPjr and how it fits into the Computer Science for All initiative here in New York City. Then we'll look at a little bit of the SEPjr curriculum and content and resources, and then discuss SEPjr program requirements. And so these are the requirements and expectations for schools that are applying, and then application tips to help you and your schools in completing the application. And then finally, at the end, if there's any questions or answers that I can provide anybody who's participating in today's webinar. Also, again, I don't know if I mentioned this, but it is recorded, so don't worry about taking notes right away. I mean, feel free to jot things down, but if you miss something, don't worry about it. This will be recorded, and you'll use the same link, and you can go back and review a recording of it on YouTube. So, okay, so let's start off with what is Computer Science for All in New York City. So, Computer Science for All is an initiative to ensure all New York City public school students learn computer science with an emphasis on female, Black, and Latino students. Through our work, students will be better prepared to utilize computer science after graduation. So this is a Computer Science for All mission statement. And how do we intend to do that? So there's three kind of like pillars or elements to the computer science programs that we're implementing. The first thing is an emphasis on practices, and so these are to analyze the impacts of computing, prototyping projects to interests. That means building things that engage and are interesting to students, and then also students' ability to communicate understanding of the concepts. So what are the concepts? The five main concepts that we address around computer science are abstraction, algorithms, programming, and data. And then finally, we take an approach to perspectives. Now, the perspectives are the approach that we use to engage the students based on where they are in their understanding of computer science. Now, for elementary school, we look at the first two perspectives a lot. Explore. It means it's an opportunity for students to just kind of tinker and play around and explore the tools and the content around computer science. And then the next perspective would be creator, where students have an opportunity, now that they've kind of tinkered with something and learned some of the content around the concepts, start creating things. And this also involves remixing or working on tutorials or project plans that are kind of given to them. Once students start understanding how to use the tools that they're building or that they're learning about and the concepts and practices, then they kind of step into that innovator phase where now they kind of think about like, well, what do I want to do with this? What can I do with this outside of like looking or building on someone else's project? Like, how can I create something different? And then finally, Citizen is the opportunity for students to really consider the impact of what they're doing around computer science and what kind of impact computer science has on their community, whether it's their classroom, their school, their neighborhood, or the community at large. And like I said, SEPjr, the elementary school, there's a lot of focus on the explorer and creator, but we also do address some of the innovator and citizens as they work through the content. So if you are not as familiar with computer concepts, I'm not going to really get too much into the, the abstraction and algorithms. There is a teacher-facing resource which kind of demonstrates the foundation of all the content that we're using to implement the Computer Science for All initiative. It's called the Blueprint. You'll see the link right there at the bottom. It's called blueprint.cs, the number 4 all.nyc. And what this does, it's a digital resource for schools and teachers, and it helps define a meaningful computer science learning experience as an exploration of computer science concepts and practices, along with the depth of knowledge. We are addressing that, we don't want just, of course, we want the tinkering and the playing and like getting that, initial touch, but we really want to, challenge the students with the computer science content. It also helps equip teachers with sample computer science units. It's also used to help showcase pedagogical practice for computer science teachers. The computer science classroom can often look very different than a regular classroom, or elements look very different, doing things like pair programming, fail forward is a big thing. So like, students might not always accomplish something right off the bat, and that's okay, and that's part of the iterative process. And then also, we talk a lot about, prototyping, and, computer science just isn't about devices, it's about the computational thinking that's built into it. So the Blueprint also provides implementation support for teachers and administrators. And finally, it's developed through a co-design process with teachers, administrators, computer science ed community, industry, and academics. And I think, the importance of knowing that is that this isn't just our office kind of being like, okay, this is what everybody wants and making assumptions. We really try to get as many people involved from the classroom, from the school environment, from the computer science world, on really giving us feedback and helping us develop these resources as we move forward. If you go to the Blueprint, that first landing page, you'll see an option to view 3 videos. For SEPjr, I would highly recommend looking at the elementary school video all the way there on the left of the screen. This is a perfect opportunity to see a few of the Cohort 1 SEPjr schools and some of the projects they do. They were doing the Maker Week, where they were working on circuits and how they apply to understanding a circuit and how it applies to computer science. And then also Joanne, one of our Cohort 1 teachers, doing a project around with the Makey on game controller design. The students, programmed a game in Scratch, and they built out their own controllers for it. So it's just a really good first touch on the video. The Blueprint's in the application, we actually ask you to view this video and some of the other videos and reflect on it and how it might apply to what your school's goals and expectations are. And so it's bigger than just the skills. And this is really, really important, because computer science is not only an educational and economic, but it's an equity imperative. We really want to make sure that here in New York City, we're making computer science available to all students and all learner types, and whether students want to become computer science engineers or whether they just want a better understanding of the world around them and the devices that they use. We want to make sure that all students have the opportunity to explore computer science. This is a great picture right here. I think it was 3rd grade students doing one of the code.org activities in the CS Fundamentals content around conditionals, and they're playing cards. And like I said before, it's not just about devices, it's about that computational thinking. So the broader scope of it, the CS for All initiative and the expectations around is by 2025, All schools will be expected to provide at least one unit of computer science to every student at each grade band. So at kindergarten to second, students should receive at least one unit of computer science, third to fifth, sixth to eighth, and then high school. By 2025, all schools should be teaching this. Now, in order to do that, our office has been looking at our PD options and how we engage schools and teachers in helping deliver meaningful, powerful professional development to get teachers ready. So the current working model is that, we have that element of one-day trainings or introduction, of computer science to schools and teachers. Sometimes this is built around the CS Ed Week event, which is in December, where teachers kind of do an hour of code, or they learn some fundamental practices and concepts, and then they go in and see what it's like to teach a lesson around computer science. From there, they move on to the unit. So the unit is that, expectation around the CS for All initiative, and we provide professional development around that so the teachers can implement that meaningful unit of computer science. The next step up is courses, which is geared more towards middle school and high school. And these are specific, like a math course or a language arts course. Now, the last part there you see is a sequence. Now, sequence is actually what SEPjr is. There's 75 to 100 hours of training, and the real expectation is that the schools participating in SEPjr will implement more than that one unit per grade band. The minimum expectation is that all students receive one unit of computer science each year that they're in that school. So from kindergarten to fifth grade, kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth, and fifth, each of those years, they will receive at least one meaningful unit of computer science. And really the hope and goal is that they receive multiple units of computer science based on the availability of scheduling and the integration into other content areas. But so sequencing is more that intense, deeper dive into computer science for an elementary school. So again, now getting specifically to the goals of the software engineering program junior, SEP junior, one, it's again, to follow along with the expectations of CS for All, it's increased the number of elementary students, particularly from traditionally underrepresented groups who learn computer science. And then develop students' computational thinking and problem skills in real-world context. And then finally, enable students to engage in computer science instruction in each year of elementary school. The SEPjr curriculum is designed to provide all students in the school with deep exposure to computer science concepts and practices through a sequence of CS experiences that build on each other from year to year, thus offering a really true, rich elementary school computer science experience that kind of goes beyond, exceeds that computer science goal of just one meaningful unit per grade band. So again, this is a very intensive program. The expectation, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, is by year 4, all students are receiving at least one meaningful unit each level or each year that they're in that particular school. And through the professional development and the teacher resources and the support that we provide will help schools get to that expectation, or meet that expectation. We're really looking for schools that are willing to and want to make computer science as part of their vision, the school vision. So things like the vision for effective leadership within the school. We provide, again, that overview expectation and implementation guide. We help schools set goals. We help schools with the turnkey and, really build out the knowledge and understanding of computer science, in that first year of that core team. But as schools scale out, we also look to support those new teachers that are wanting to implement and are beginning to implement that, the next round of computer science as they move towards that 4-year goal. Again, rigorous instruction, and it starts with that blueprint. That is that, web-based resource that's available to teachers. The infusion of the concepts in practice. So it's not just, online games. There's real academic value and understanding like built into the content that we're providing. Again, the professional development and professional learning communities, and then also developing the content and curriculum in a way that it provides a sequence for those particular schools to implement. And then finally, with anything successful in a school, we also look towards strong family and community ties. So, how do we help schools introduce what computer science is to the parents during parent-teacher conferences? Help celebrate computer science during things like Computer Science Education Week, Maker Week, and then at the end of the year, doing a big school showcase to really embrace and engage. That computer science becomes one of those like core values for a school. Um, this is just kind of a fun thing to do. If you want to see some great pictures of teachers and students participating in computer science for all, SEPjr, definitely check out the hashtag CS for all NYC, either on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. You'll definitely see some pictures that of how engaging computer science and how much fun it can be, and it's just can be a very different learning environment from other content areas. So, what are the instructional supports? So this is going to kind of start getting into like how are we going to support the schools? You'll see this is a picture of one of our cohort 2 professional development opportunities, and you'll see that we really want teachers to have a hands-on experience. It's not just chalk and talk. We really want them to practice and experience what the students will be experiencing. So what are our instructional supports for the year? So SEPjr is initially a 1-year implementation and professional development and support for a school, and then there is a second and third year component to it. But for that first year, what will happen is there's professional development for all teachers. Procession is provided, and included. And what that professional development looks like is that we're looking for a group of core teachers from each school, a minimum of 5, a maximum of 7, 2 in each grade band, and then 1 cluster or coverage teacher, whether preferably a technology teacher, just because of the support needed in that, monitoring and managing the equipment, but also they tend to see a majority or a larger group of students throughout the school year. But that first day of PD will be June 9th. And that's really just kind of a kickoff date. It's a deeper understanding of like what the content's going to look like and what the expectations are, and allows for the teacher team to kind of start, just identifying like, okay, this is my teacher team, this is who I'm going to be working with, and like start thinking about the plan that they have for that long-term goal of getting computer science to every student at every level. There's the next one is the 5-day mandatory summer institute, which is August 6th to the 10th. Again, this is 5 days where we really explore those concepts and practices and help teachers gain that, begin gaining understanding of like what that means in elementary school computer science education, and how valuable that will be to their students. And then we start looking at the content and curriculum. After the summer, we have monthly Saturday sessions throughout the school year. We will have 9 throughout the school year. 5 of them will be specifically designed to help support the current cohort or cohort 3, and then 4 of them will be much more specified or targeted professional developments, whether a grade band or a teaching tool used as part of the content. So speaking of content, what is the curriculum and materials? So the curriculum is really teacher-directed and project-based curriculum with unit plans and activities. It's also curriculum topics that include, but aren't a limit to it's introduction to computer science, the fundamentals of computer science, robots, creative computing or project-based learning, and physical computing. Now, introduction to computer science could just be, getting students to start understanding about, how computers work and why computers need programs, and how the computer receives those programs, and how it applies to the function of a computer. And then we start moving into the fundamentals and really focusing on some of the concepts. And then the robots part of it, it's a little different than robotics if you have a robotics league, but it's really just looking at, now I've learned some content and concepts and practices. How can I program, instead of programming something two-dimensional, programming something three-dimensional, and what challenges and what advantages do I have doing that? The creative computing or the project-based learning is now, what can I do with these skills that I've learned outside of, like in other content areas? This is where we start to see a lot of really great content integration, like, creating a book report, or, an animation that demonstrates a word problem in mathematics, things like that. And then physical computing is looking at things. We focus on the microbit and the makey, and it's how we physically interact with computers. Because, initially we think like, oh, we just type and that's how computers know what to do, or like touch a screen. But we interact with computers every single day, in different ways. When you're walking through an automatic door that uses a sensor to determine how close you are to the door before it opens, you're interacting with the computer there. So that's what physical computing starts to get into. And I think the goal for physical computing is to get elementary school students to stop, not necessarily think that, computers are magic. They're definitely magical and they can do magical things, but there's nothing magic going on in there. And, kind of demystify that so students can know and learn the things to like engage computers in a different way. And the curriculum will align with the Computer Science for All blueprint. And so we have student outcomes that are built on those concepts, practices, and perspectives, that also, are rooted in other standards that are out there, like the CSTA standards, the ISTE standards, and the framework that was developed a couple of years ago. And then finally, the PLC, professional learning communities are just as valuable as the in-person professional development. So we have optional participation in computer science professional learning communities for all teachers who have been trained via, this might be an online discussion group, an online course, webinars, or partner workshops. And so this is that second and third year model. Like after you've implemented that first year and built that teacher team and built that community, how do you start scaling? And that's through the PLCs and the resources. Like we can't train all teachers in professional development, though we wish we could. It's just it's logistically we can't do it, but we can provide an online course where you, as the core group, can then support the classroom teachers that weren't able to attend PD. So things like that. And then we really encourage our teachers to share the content and the resources. I can put together a curriculum and a scope and sequence, but I can't individualize for every school, and every school starts to like make it their own, and you see some really wonderful and powerful things come out of those things from schools. So I am just going to take a quick little break and just see if there's any questions, and currently no questions. Okay, that's great. Again, if you do have any questions, please feel free to just go ahead and add them into the chat next to the window in the YouTube screen, or you can wait till the end of the session and I can visit them then. So, okay, great. So I'm going to keep going here. And okay, so program requirements. So now you have a better understanding, or hopefully you have a better understanding of the year of professional development that you receive, and then the second and third year supports, what the curriculum is going to look like, or like just kind of the foundations of the curriculum, and then expectations for support. And I know that I say that it's a 1 year of like intense professional development, and then year 2 and 3 are also supporting years, and then the expectation by year 4. But what we really hope to do is build a community that supports itself throughout, from this point on. It's not just after 4 years, okay, I'm done with this initiative. It's just we really want it to become the culture in a school that computer science and computational thinking is part of that school community. So in order to get there, we have some program requirements for schools entering SEPjr. So the first thing is that, you know, again, if you want to participate in SEPjr, then the expectation is that you provide ongoing instruction of the software engineering curriculum, SEPjr curriculum, throughout the year at each grade level. So again, kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth, and fifth, every school year, students are getting computer science, starting with maybe just a unit, but as you develop the capacity, expanding that out to maybe 2 units. And the curriculum is really designed to allow schools flexibility on the units that they choose based on the materials and the staffing and the students themselves, and scheduling. I completely, that's one thing that I've definitely learned in the first 2 years of implementing the SEPjr program, is that elementary school, some teachers teach 4 content areas. So we don't want to feel that schools are sacrificing something to implement computer science, but really just enhancing what they're already doing with computer science. And so that's our expectation. And then also plan towards ensuring SEPjr participation by all students within 2 to 4 years. Now, within 2 years is a lofty goal, and if you want to do it, we'll try to support every school that has that goal, but knowing that you do have up to 4 years to implement that year-to-year computer science program. So regarding staff around SEPjr, so I think I mentioned this briefly before, but provide at least 5 licensed teachers, including 2 at each grade band. So that would be 2 K-2 teachers and 2 3 to 5th grade teachers, and 1 coverage teacher. And I mentioned that we had the computer lab teacher. We have also had librarians, school librarians, and we've also had art teachers or STEM teachers. But just that teacher has the capacity and flexibility that might work with multiple classrooms, and could focus a little more of their content directly towards computer science. Please note, schools are encouraged to provide up to 7 teachers, 1 at each grade level, K-5, and a technology teacher. The ideal school is a kindergarten teacher, 1st grade teacher, 2nd grade teacher, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade teacher, and then that 1 coverage or cluster teacher. And we're also looking for dedicated administrators as a point of contact for the program. Some of our most successful SEPjr programs have a supportive administrator that's dedicated to working with the teacher team, and part of that involves coming to the professional development when they can, when their schedule allows for it. And then it also comes down to helping those teachers with scheduling time, to like implement computer science in their curriculum. But then it also has to do with providing planning time for the teacher team, providing professional development time after school. So we really know that an effective program needs a dedicated administrator as part of that teacher team. So again, we want reaching student outcomes. So mentioned this before, the concepts, practices, and perspectives helped us to design the student outcomes for Explorer and Creator. And so they really align well with the curriculum, and we're really trying to make the curriculum and the content the tool to reach these outcomes. So we don't want you to think that you are teaching your students Scratch or Scratch Junior. What you're teaching them is abstraction, and the means in which you teach that could be through Scratch Junior or Scratch, or Hello Ruby or Coda, or the Wonder Workshop robots. That's where the flexibility comes in. The core focus of the content are the student outcomes based on the concepts and practices around the perspectives, and then providing you multiple options through the different wonderful tools that are out there and the creative tools that are available to you and your students. SEPjr teachers are expected to attend all mandatory professional development sessions. So all of the PDs for that first year, the June, the summer, and the Saturday PDs are mandatory. We understand that it's a huge commitment, and we try to make them as engaging as possible and valuable. It's not chalk and talk. We don't want teachers to feel that they're wasting their time. We really want them engaged and feel like we're contributing to the success of their students and their school. So again, it seems somewhat repetitive, but we really want you to understand that SEPjr is designed for schools that are committed to planning towards and ensuring all students, not just a select group, engage in computer science experiences through the SEPjr curriculum. All students should be receiving by year 4 content from the SEPjr program. And each SEPjr school should reach full implementation of the program after 2 to 4 years, at which point, and this is just a kind of breakdown description of it, 1 or more unit of computer science is being provided to all students at each grade level, i.e. all new students entering in grade kindergarten or the kindergarten grade will receive 1 or more unit of CS instruction each year. The curriculum is designed to support flexibility for schools in regards to which and how many units are taught in each grade. And then to continue on that, the commitment for our schools is that SEPjr schools are not expected to initially offer computer science again at every grade level as outfitted by the previous bullet, but are expected to acknowledge that that's the expectation up front. Like when you're applying for this program, we want you to know and we want you to understand that you're committing to a full implementation within 2 to 4 years. And we want that to be the driving force behind your application and the answers and demonstrating that, yes, I understand this. Yes, our school understands this. The teachers understand this, and we're committed. We believe this is something that it will be valuable not only to our classroom, but to our school. And then finally, that teacher team described before, designate and support a team of teachers to serve as the CS team for the school, who will help with strengthening the culture around CS teaching and learning in the school, recruiting and supporting any additional teachers who are necessary to provide SEPjr to all students. And so that's really that core group is going to be kind of tasked with, turnkeying and providing the resources and pointing them in the right direction and making those connections to the content and things like that to help facilitate that full implementation by year 4. And then, of course, how do you support, supporting the goals of SEPjr? So increase the number of elementary school students, particularly from traditionally underrepresented groups who learn computer science, develop students' computational thinking and problem solving skills in real world context. And then, as we said before, and we can't say it enough, is enable students to engage in computer science instruction in each year of elementary school. The SEPjr curriculum is designed to provide all of the students with a very deep exposure to CS concepts and practices through that sequence that should be built in each year, and really provide that rich elementary school computer science education experience that kind of goes beyond that meaningful just 1 unit. So now, getting specifically into the application, we have built in some criteria around the application and provide you some tips. Again, there's been a lot of information up to this point of like what our expectations are, what the goals are, what the commitment is, and we really want the applications to reflect an understanding of what those are and an explanation of how your school intends to reach those goals and fulfill that commitment, and really understands what that means to the school. So excuse me, current CS program requirements. So in order to qualify for the SEPjr program, you must currently offer a meaningful computer science unit to all students, once in K2 band and once in the 3.5 band, or have a plan to do so by the end of the 2018-2019 school year. And so what this is really saying is that we're not looking for schools right now who are just, that haven't done any computer science, that aren't familiar with computer science and haven't attempted to implement computer science in their school. We have other supports through their Computer Science for All initiative for those schools to give that first touch. But we're really looking for schools that have developed a plan maybe already have an understanding of what the meaningful unit is, and this year implemented a meaningful unit in kindergarten and second grade, or third and fifth, or at least have a plan to do that. I um, run some of the code.org CS fundamental PDs, and we get a number of teachers coming into those. So if your school's implementing the code.org content into the school day, we want to hear about that. We're not really focused on after school programs or clubs. We want to hear how your school is working towards reaching that goal of at least all students receiving it once in the early elementary and once in the upper elementary. So it's very important in your application that if you do have this plan, or you're already implementing this, that you clearly explain this, and so we have a good understanding of what your work looks like. It's also really important to distinguish between computer science education and computer literacy. Computer literacy is very valuable and it's very important, especially at the elementary school level, but computer literacy is more about how to use the computer, typing, or word processing or spreadsheets. That's not a computer science education program. That's computer literacy. We really want an explanation of your computer science program. And this is not to say that you can't use things like Google Classroom, or a lot of that computer literacy to support your computer science education, because those things are definitely valuable to the success of a computer science education program. But when explaining what you're doing around computer science, we want something more around those like core concepts of programming, the design process, abstraction, really talking about those computational thinking practices. If you're not familiar with the meaningful unit, it's available on the blueprint, but just kind of a basic understanding of what it is. It's a meaningful unit provides students with 10 to 25 hours of computer science education. And it should have all threes of being able to analyze, prototype, and communicate, and at least three of the CS concepts: abstraction, algorithm, programming, data, and networks. So again, this is the distinction between computer literacy and instructional technology versus computer science. We're really looking for you to be able to articulate a plan that will ensure that teachers in one of or multiple grades in both K2 and 3-5 bands are ensuring that every student in the school is receiving a meaningful computer science unit. And again, even if you're not implementing it this year, we want to know the schools that have already thought about this and started working on a plan. And a lot of times this starts with an administrator or a teacher who's really passionate about computer science, has brought that plan to the table and has started engaging other teachers and administrators to make computer science part of their school. And if that's the case, then please tell us and articulate what that plan is. And it might have started last year with a club, and then this year it was, you were able to substitute one of the science units, or you integrated it into language arts and math. We want to hear about that. Selected schools will be required to also deploy, maintain, and sustain a technology and academic infrastructure that ensures students receive adequate access to SEPjr related resources. Now, as part of the SEPjr program, you do receive some materials. We do not provide laptops or desktop computers. Also, sometimes there's a misunderstanding that this is a grant. This is not a technology grant or hardware grant. All of the materials that we do provide are specifically connected to the curriculum for SEPjr. And we want schools to understand that, and we just want to hear what your plan is around. Do you have somebody designated to troubleshoot issues with DIT if the school's Wi-Fi goes down, or who updates and maintains the computers in the school? What kind of structure do you have? Do you have computer labs or computers in each of the classrooms? Do you have tablets? What kind of devices do you currently have? And how do you support and maintain those devices? And this is where we're interested in hearing of like, oh, well, we deploy our units to staff and students and assignments through Google Classroom or was it Microsoft 365, those types of things. This is where you might mention those types of tools. Like, do you use Nearpod? What kind of other instructional technology supports do you have for distributing and supporting a computer science curriculum? Also, instructional and administrative support is paramount for the success of the software engineering program. Again, that idea of, we really expect that core group, that first group of teachers and administrators to take on the leadership role. The SEPjr is a 2 to 3 year program requiring the commitment of the administration and teachers. And so, yes, you have until 4 years to implement, but we do expect participation of teachers and administrators in professional development. Of course, that first year is very intense. The second year, it's not as intense. Those are where the professional development Saturdays, where we have more specific targeted goals around like grade bands or teaching tools. And so that's that second and third year commitment. So you're not attending every Saturday and you're not attending over the summer, but you are still your school does have a presence at some of the opportunities for continuing to like scale and train future teachers. Schools should have a clear implementation plan for integrating the SEPjr curriculum into the daily curricula and scheduling for grade K to 5. So what is in your application, what we would like to see is like, what is your expectation for like how, like, what's your vision of this fitting in? I've worked with one school this week or last week where they're doing centers or they're doing the workshop model, and they intend to make sure that the computer science component is part of that workshop rotation, or that is part of the centers when run during math and social studies. We really want to know what that expectation is. Classroom teachers will be teaching, focusing more on the concepts and practices, where the computer lab teacher might be doing the online tutorials and technology integration, the use of the actual tools. Selected schools will also be required to clearly identify what practices are in place to support the expansion of computer science throughout the school. So we would like to hear about what kind of structure like professional development structure do you already have built into your school? What do you do on those Mondays and Tuesdays? Do you allow common prep times? Do you have teacher teams already built into like grade levels? What is it that you're already doing to help? If you were to implement some other initiative or new content into your school, what supports do you already have in place that are going to make that successful? And we want to hear about that and how you would intend to use those supports and infrastructure to grow computer science through participating in SEPjr. And then finally, schools should be able to articulate their initial plans and thinking for how they will ensure after the 2 to 4 years, all students entering the school will receive at least 1 unit of computer science at each grade level. So this might be an expectation that, in that first year, you have your core team. In that second year, you are going to focus on first and third grade teachers. In this third year, you're going to do second and fourth. And in that fourth year of implementation, you are going to focus on, I think I did it wrong. Yes. Yeah. Third and fifth. So just that, like that you have some understanding of like what possibly is going to work in your school. Maybe you start off with all social studies teachers from K to 5. You could either do it by grade or content area, and having the librarian or the computer lab teacher support that implementation. We really want to know what your long-term plan is for making sure every student gets that unit of computer science, minimum unit, 1 unit of computer science. So specifically to the application, there's several questions in there that have links related to the blueprint, because we really want you to know that resource is out there and see what your interpretation of some of that content is. Like that landing page video around elementary school. Project-based learning is very valuable to us. Universal design for learning, and we have pedagogical resources. So looking at those and reflecting on those and like, what is your understanding of those? a clear understanding of what computer science education is. Again, this is demonstrating that you have an understanding that it's around concepts and practices of computer science and computational thinking, and it's different than the computer literacy or the instructional technology part of computers in a school. uh, really thoughtful answers to the application questions. One sentence is not enough to really give us a good understanding of what you're doing and the hard work that you're doing at your school. We really want you to like describe, you know, and allow us to better understand what you are doing already and what your expectations are and why you find computer science valuable. Again, one sentence is not enough. Um, we can't make any judgment calls on your commitment to computer science and the hard work that you've already implemented, you know, just in general at your school in one sentence. Also, again, the logistics of it, a really strong teacher team. We're looking for several schools who provide a lead teacher for each grade. Our ideal school is one teacher, kindergarten through fifth grade, with that coverage teacher. But also, try to avoid teacher teams that are like two kindergarten teachers and two fifth grade teachers. If you can get the two teachers per grade band, try to mix them up where it's a K1, 1, 2, and then like a 4, 5, or 2, 3, 4, because it's just going to make it easier for your school to implement that 4-year goal of all students receiving computer science. And we want to hear the teacher's voice and we want to hear the administrator's voice. So, that commitment starts there in the application that, we hear the voice of the teachers and the students. A lot of times one person is kind of, tasked to like fill out this entire application. That's fine at first, but you definitely then want to like talk with some of the possible teacher team members and the administrators to also contribute their thoughts and ideas. I think those are some of the most powerful applications that we do get, where you can hear multiple voices in that application. Uh, Again, just some more logistics. The application opened up on March 20th through the Principals Weekly. We've had 2 sessions for the application webinars. Today is the second one. We're going to actually be adding in a third one after spring break sometime, closer to the application due date. But again, like I said, these links will bring you right back to the recorded version of this webinar. The application due date is April 20th, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So end of business day, Friday, April 20th. There is the link to the application itself. The first thing in that application is asks you, have you read the overview? And there's a link right there. If you click no, that's already telling us that like you're going to struggle with an understanding of what our expectations are. Read that overview. It's only a couple pages long. It's a quick read, and it really reiterates all the things that I've talked about today. Friday, May 18th is the final decision. Will be sent to all schools. And then again, that first date is June 9th for that welcome session before the end of the school year. And then August 6th to 10th, which isn't on here, but that's the summer commitment. Again, teacher teams that are in the application, if if the team looks one way and then June 9th, you had to make some adjustments, that's okay. Up until June 9th, but like that team that shows up June 9th needs to be the team that's going to be there through the entire first year of professional development. So come August 6th to 10th, we're not looking to reshuffle any schools or like switching up teacher teams. If that does happen, a case-by-case scenario where we'll look at it and see if that teacher team in that school still meets the requirements of SEPjr. So it can affect your application and participation in SEPjr if you have to change a team after being accepted into the program. And then September, it's the launch, and we help schools get ready in August to like really hit the ground running in September 2018. Finally, I will look back in just a second at see if there's any comments or questions. But it's a lot of information to digest. So in the meantime, if you do eventually have questions, you can email programs@strongschools.nyc. And let me check real quick to see if there's any questions. Okay, so there's two questions in there right now. So SEP Junior, the first question is that I'm a sixth to eighth grade teacher. Should I apply for SEP Junior? SEP Junior is not designed for middle school. It's specifically designed for the kindergarten through fifth grade. So we're looking for kindergarten through fifth grade teachers. You shouldn't apply if you're a middle school teacher. There are some other options on the CS for All website. So if you go to CS the number 4 all.nyc, there and you find the professional development opportunities. There's some opportunities there for middle school teachers, like CS Discoveries might be a better option for you. And there will be some courses around that too. So what materials resources are provided? So we provide um, one, it's just the content and resource, like the curriculum, the lesson plans, the unit guides, those types of things. We also provide actual devices are related to. We're going to be offering tablets. We're not sure what type of tablets right now. We're trying to figure out what device is financially responsible, but also meets the requirements of, especially some of the early elementary things like Scratch Junior, the Foos, Hopscotch, those types of apps that are only utilized on tablets. So we do offer school sets of tablets. We also provide robots related to the content. Sometimes it shifts a little bit based on, discovering robots that are, better suited for better content. But in the past, we provided the mouse robot or robot mouse from Learning Resources, Dash and Dot robots from Wonder Workshop. And again, those are class or school sets of 30 per school. And then the other physical devices like hardware that we do provide are Makey's and the microbits around the physical computing content towards the end of the school year. So are there any other questions out there? Hopefully those answers those two questions. I'll just give it a second to see if there's any more questions. All right. Doesn't look like there's any more questions. So again, if you do, after this webinar, you have any additional questions, please email programs@strongschools.nyc, and I look forward to seeing everybody's application. So thank you and have a great Monday evening.